We have been taught since childhood that to be good is to be virtuous, to obey, to yield. That self-sacrifice is the highest moral calling. That if we are kind, patient, and just, the world will return our goodness with reward. Yet, how many lives testify to the opposite? How many honest men were crushed by cunning rivals? How many loyal hearts were betrayed by those they trusted? How many good people are forgotten in the dust while the ruthless ascend? Niccolò Machiavelli, the misunderstood mind of the Renaissance, did not ask you to be cruel. He simply opened your eyes. He looked upon a world of deception, violence, and illusion and whispered, "It is better to be feared than loved, if one cannot be both." Not because fear is noble, but because reality is not kind to those who cling to fantasy. This is not a sermon for tyrants. It is a mirror for the powerless, a call to awaken, not from morality, but from naivety. Today, we dive into the shadows of Machiavelli's philosophy, not to extinguish goodness, but to understand why being good is not enough. From the cradle, society teaches us that fairness reigns, that truth always triumphs, and that integrity is a shield against chaos. But history betrays this belief. The just man is often silenced, the idealist is mocked. The soft-spoken are drowned by the noise of those who manipulate the system. Machiavelli lived in a time of treachery, Renaissance Italy, where power shifted like sand, and noblemen plotted behind the curtain. He saw firsthand that those who played the moral card often used it as a mask. The real game was played in silence, in strategy, manipulation, and calculated decisions. He did not invent deception, he merely named it. And in doing so, he shattered the illusion that good intentions lead to good outcomes. In truth, intentions mean nothing if they lack power. A lamb in a forest of wolves is not noble, it is prey. In his infamous work, The Prince, Machiavelli crafted not a handbook for tyranny, but a brutally honest portrait of leadership in a corrupt world. He wrote not for saints, but for survivors. The prince, in his view, must learn to act against faith, charity, and mercy if these stand in the way of power and survival. Why? Because the world does not reward sincerity, it rewards strength. And strength, Machiavelli understood, is not always muscle, it is perception. It is fear disguised as respect. It is silence when others scream and cunning when others react. You are not a ruler of a nation, but you are the ruler of your life, and if you always choose to be the good one, the agreeable, the accommodating, the sacrificial, you may never become the architect of your destiny. You will be ruled by others while believing you are being noble. We are all actors on the stage of society. Some know they are wearing masks. Others are the mask. Machiavelli taught that appearances matter more than reality. A leader must appear merciful, faithful, humane, sincere, and religious, even if he is none of these things, because people do not see the truth, they see performance, and in that performance lies control. This insight is not about deception for evil's sake. It is about survival. In a world that rewards perception, the one who controls appearances controls the narrative, and the one who controls the narrative controls the world. So ask yourself, are you showing who you truly are, or who the world expects you to be? And more importantly, are you being played, or are you playing? The Stoics like Marcus Aurelius preached virtue as its own reward, and in a perfect world, they are right. But Machiavelli saw what happens when virtue is used against you. He warned that too much virtue in the wrong world becomes vice. Excessive kindness breeds exploitation. Unchecked mercy invites rebellion. Trust without scrutiny opens the gates to betrayal. He called this not virtue in the moral sense, but in the Roman sense, the force of character, cunning, and the capacity to shape one's fate. In this definition, to be truly virtuous is to be adaptable, pragmatic, and even ruthless when necessary. He did not oppose virtue, he redefined it for a broken world. Fairness is a comforting illusion. It gives hope to the powerless. But Machiavelli tore away this veil with a surgeon's precision. Power, he wrote, is not distributed by merit. It is seized. Stability is not maintained by fairness, but by fear, alliances, and the manipulation of perception. The sooner one understands this, the less bitter life becomes. You stop expecting fairness from those who are not bound by it. You stop waiting for the world to do the right thing. You start to act with awareness, strategy, and discipline. Fairness should be a personal standard, not an expectation from others. Otherwise, you are not principled, you are unprepared. Kindness is a noble force, but unguarded kindness, given to all without discernment, becomes a gateway to your own ruin. Machiavelli wrote that cruelty, if well used, can be justified. He did not celebrate cruelty, but understood its function. A swift and calculated strike, when done for long-term peace, is wiser than continuous softness that invites constant chaos. We must ask, is our kindness rooted in strength or in fear of rejection? Is our goodness chosen or forced by insecurity? If you cannot say, no, your yes means nothing. Kindness must be paired with strength, otherwise it becomes a plea. Is it better to be loved or feared? Machiavelli asked, and his answer was sharp. If you must choose, it is safer to be feared. Love is fragile. It depends on others. It changes with circumstances. But fear is reliable. It binds through caution, respect, and predictability. We do not suggest living without love, but we must understand its limits. The person who relies solely on being loved is at the mercy of others. The one who can evoke respect through fear, measured, not tyrannical, is harder to betray. Do not seek to be feared like a monster. Seek to be respected like fire, beautiful, warm, but dangerous when crossed. You may not govern a city, but you live in a political world. Every workplace, relationship, or social circle is a theater of power. Machiavelli teaches us to see the game, to observe alliances, to understand when silence is more powerful than speech, to know when to strike and when to retreat. The one who sees life as chess will never be surprised by a pawn's betrayal. The fool believes life is fair. The wise man sees life as war disguised in etiquette. Machiavelli did not mourn betrayal, he expected it. He understood that people are fickle, driven by self-interest, and prone to forget favors. This was not cynicism. It was clarity. It was the understanding that loyalty is conditional and gratitude is short-lived. He who plans for betrayal is not paranoid. He is prepared. To be shocked by human selfishness is to admit that one still clings to illusion. The wise man does not grow bitter, he grows awake. In the mythology of modern society, being good is portrayed as the highest virtue. We are told that if we behave well, if we are kind, selfless, honest, and fair, then the universe will reward us. But this is not a philosophical truth. It is a social construct, designed not for liberation but for containment. Machiavelli, stripped of illusions, did not claim that morality was meaningless. He claimed it was relative, fluid, and often weaponized. To be moral in a society designed by wolves is to live as a sheep among predators. Goodness is too often defined by the victor. Those in power write history. They shape what is good and evil according to what benefits them. Machiavelli understood that the man who blindly follows goodness will eventually become a tool, used, discarded, and forgotten. He did not advocate for cruelty, but for clarity. He insisted that one must see the world as it is, not as one wishes it to be. Like Schopenhauer, who warned of the lies of romantic idealism, or Marcus Aurelius, who faced war and plague with stoic realism, Machiavelli rejected fantasies. He refused to cloak reality in virtue. To survive in a world where manipulation wears the mask of morality, one must remove the mask, both from others and from oneself. The man who clings to moral myths becomes the ideal subject of those who exploit. But the man who sees these myths for what they are becomes unshackled. Not cruel, not heartless, but lucid, agile, and unbreakable. Machiavelli once wrote, "A prince never lacks legitimate reasons to break his promise." The modern man recalls at this, "We are conditioned to believe that loyalty is everything, that breaking a promise is evil." But Machiavelli asks, what is the consequence of blind loyalty? A man who clings to his promises when the world has changed around him is not virtuous. He is naive. There are times when principle becomes a prison. When the conditions that made a promise just have decayed, should the promise remain sacred? Or is it wiser to adapt? The strategic heart does not abandon conscience, but it refuses to become enslaved to it. In relationships, in careers, in leadership, promises are made, yes, but they are made in a specific time, under specific conditions. Machiavelli's wisdom whispers, examine whether those conditions still hold. If not, loyalty can become self-destruction. This is not a call to lie or deceive needlessly. It is a recognition that context changes, people shift, and circumstances evolve. The man who is rigid, who cannot flex with life's transformations, becomes brittle and breaks. Being good is not always being kind, and being kind is not always being wise. The strategic heart sees the truth. Sometimes love demands hardness. Sometimes mercy demands distance. Sometimes promises demand to be broken so that one may remain true, not to others, but to life itself. In one of his most infamous insights, Machiavelli argued that it is more important to appear good than to actually be good. This is not hypocrisy. It is survival. To be seen as virtuous gives a man credibility, safety, and influence. To actually be virtuous may yield none of those things. The truth is disturbing, but undeniable. We judge people by perception. We assume the man with the calm smile is trustworthy. We assume the confident speaker knows the truth. But Machiavelli asks us what lies beneath. He is not asking us to become frauds. He is asking us to control our image, not to be ruled by it but to wield it. Appearance is armor, reality is strategy. A man who is good but appears weak will be stepped on. A man who is evil but appears noble will be praised. The goal is not to become evil, but to become aware of this dissonance and to use it. Machiavelli teaches project strength. Appear calm, display virtue, but internally plan, observe, and move with cold clarity. The Renaissance court was filled with smiling assassins and polite traitors. The same is true today in corporate offices, in political arenas, and even in families. The world does not reward truth, it rewards perception. This is not cynicism, it is liberation. Is it better to be loved or feared? Machiavelli asked, and then he answered with cruel precision. It is safer to be feared than loved. Love is fleeting. Fear endures. We are taught to seek love, to win it, to nurture it, but love can vanish the moment we falter. One mistake, one perceived weakness, and love retreats. Fear, however, anchors. It may not feel noble, but it keeps boundaries intact. Fear, in Machiavelli's view, is not about cruelty. It is about respect rooted in strength. It is the kind of fear that stops others from taking advantage. The kind that protects what love alone cannot defend. The man who is only loved is vulnerable. The man who is only feared is isolated. But the man who balances both, who earns admiration yet commands respect, he is untouchable. To command fear is not to abuse power. It is to radiate presence. It is to establish a reputation that says, I will not be crossed without consequence. In a world of smiling predators, fear is not a weakness. It is a signal to others, I am not your prey. Machiavelli, with the detached precision of a surgeon, identified a key illusion in human affairs, the overwhelming weight placed upon appearances rather than reality. Everyone sees what you appear to be. He wrote, few experience what you really are. In these words lies an entire philosophy of power, masked in civility. In a world dominated by perception, virtue becomes theater, morality becomes performance, and sincerity, an expensive luxury. Those who cling to honesty without strategy are often destroyed by their own nobility. They expect the world to reward goodness simply because it is good. But the world, Machiavelli teaches, has no such contract. Instead, success belongs to those who understand the currency of perception, who master the illusion without becoming lost in it. This is not a call to deceit for its own sake. It is a call to wisdom, know when to reveal, when to conceal, and when to create the mask. Appear good, even when you must act otherwise, because power often lies behind the curtain, not in front of it. Here Machiavelli collides with Jung. While Jung urges us to integrate the shadow, to bring the unconscious truth of our darker nature into the light, Machiavelli suggests something more radical. Not only integrate it, but use it. Quietly, tactically, elegantly. The man who knows how to appear innocent while navigating the undercurrents of chaos is not immoral. He is awake. In ancient philosophy, fortune is often depicted as a blind goddess spinning the wheel of fate. To the Stoics, she is something to be endured with dignity. To Machiavelli, she is something to be tamed. He divides life into two halves, the part ruled by our own will and the part controlled by fortune. But unlike the Stoics who find virtue in submission, Machiavelli finds greatness in rebellion. He writes, "It is better to be impetuous than cautious, for fortune is a woman who prefers boldness." What does this mean? It means passivity is a poison, waiting for the world to hand you justice, kindness, or success is a slow death. The smart man adjusts like a river, sometimes crashing through barriers, other times flowing silently around them. His morality is not fixed, it adapts. He shifts with time, learns from his enemies, and never confuses rigidity with righteousness. In a culture obsessed with being correct, Machiavelli's dark wisdom reminds us that correctness is often a performance judged by fools. Flexibility, by contrast, is nature's deepest law. Even trees that do not bend in storm eventually break. The prince who survives is not the purest, but the most adaptable. In today's world, we often believe that if we say we are good, but Machiavelli knew better. Centuries before social media and public posturing, he wrote of men who cloak themselves in virtue while stabbing with the other hand. Goodness becomes performance, and performance becomes power. The problem, then, is not virtue, but virtue without soul, goodness without depth. This hollow morality, where image replaces essence, is what Machiavelli warns us against, for he observed that public goodness is often used to destroy the wise. A truly moral man may act in silence, without applause, but those who parade their virtue too loudly are often hiding a dagger behind their back. Here, we can reflect on a Schopenhauerian truth. The will to appear good is often stronger than the will to be good. And thus, the wise man must watch not what others say about virtue, but what they do when the lights are off. Machiavelli's insight. Be wary of the man who must constantly remind you of his nobility. Cruelty to the moral man is repugnant. But to Machiavelli, cruelty, when measured, when controlled, can be necessary. He argues that violence, if required, should be swift and complete, not lingering, not excessive. Just enough, he writes, injuries should be inflicted all at once, so that their ill savor is less tasted. The insight here is chilling, but honest. People remember the cruelty of repeated harm more than the impact of a single strike. Machiavelli does not praise cruelty for its own sake. Instead, he advises that if it must be done, do it once, do it cleanly, and never again. This logic, cold as it may seem, reflects a deeper truth. Chaos increases when decisions are weak, and too often, those who claim to be good avoid decisive action out of fear. They allow rot to spread, injustice to multiply, cruelty to linger, because they lack the strength to make a hard choice once and for all. Controlled cruelty, then, is not savagery. It is a strategic form of mercy. If a cancer must be removed, better with one sharp incision than 1,000 dull cuts. There is a modern obsession with leaders who are relatable, humble, and endlessly apologetic. But Machiavelli would have scoffed at such fragility. To lead, he writes, one must be prepared to act against pity, against love, and sometimes against the very people one rules. Love is held by a chain of obligation, which is broken at every opportunity for advantage, he warns. Fear, however, is more reliable. This does not mean a ruler should be cruel, it means he should be clear. A lion may be feared, but it is also respected. A rabbit may be loved, but it is soon eaten. True leadership is not the avoidance of fear, it is the management of it. And here we must confront a painful truth. The need to be liked is often the enemy of wisdom. A good ruler, like a good man, must be willing to be disliked. He must be willing to act alone, to be misunderstood, because the approval of the crowd is never a substitute for the clarity of vision. We want to believe that justice is fairness, that if we are good, life will reward us, that evil is punished and good is blessed. Machiavelli dismantles this illusion. He knew that justice, as practiced in the real world, is often the tool of the powerful, not the refuge of the righteous. Fairness is a concept. Power is a reality. A prince must sometimes choose between what is just and what preserves the state. He must learn the difference between fairness and survival, between being loved and being obeyed. In this, Machiavelli is not heartless. He is realistic. He forces us to ask, what are we willing to sacrifice in the name of idealism? How many innocents suffer while we argue about abstract morality? Justice, he argues, should be the child of wisdom, not sentiment. And sometimes, mercy must be measured not by what feels good, but by what prevents greater chaos. Every court, every palace, every boardroom, indeed every family, is a stage. And on this stage, power is not only exercised but performed. Machiavelli understood that power is as much about perception as it is about force. The wise leader must become an actor, not to deceive for fun, but to protect what matters. To survive among wolves, you must sometimes wear their fur. And to move among angels, you must speak their tongue. Here we see the convergence of political wisdom and psychological truth. Jung might call it the integration of personas, the masks we wear to meet the world. Machiavelli simply calls it strategy. To deny this is to be devoured. To master it is to become untouchable. In a world governed by appearances, reputation is not a reflection of virtue, but a carefully sculpted mask. Machiavelli writes that a prince must appear to be merciful, faithful, humane, honest, and religious, but only appear so. To actually be these things, when it does not serve survival or power, is to be devoured by the wolves of the world. This is not cynicism. It is clarity born from harsh reality. We spend years polishing our name, defending our image, desperately hoping to be seen as good. But to what end? Praise from those who would abandon us when it no longer suits them. Social approval from crowds who do not understand themselves, let alone the truth of virtue. Machiavelli teaches us that reputation is useful not when it is sincere, but when it is strategic. If your image buys you time, influence, and safety, then nurture it. But do not be seduced into confusing the mask with the face. He who falls in love with his own illusion will lose himself when it shatters. There is wisdom in reputation, yes, but it must be wielded, not worshipped. Morality, as crafted by society, often serves the strong, not the righteous. It binds the common man while excusing the sovereign. Machiavelli unmasks this. He does not dismiss morality altogether, but he exposes its manipulative use as a tool of control. Religions have been used to wage wars. Laws have been written to protect the wealthy. Noble-sounding ideals have cloaked the brutal machinery of empire. Machiavelli's dark wisdom is this: before you act morally, ask, who benefits from my virtue? Too often our morality is dictated by fear of guilt, fear of rejection, fear of punishment. But real morality must emerge from strength, not submission, from clarity, not indoctrination. The man who blindly follows the morality handed to him is not virtuous, he is obedient. And in Machiavelli's world, obedience is the prelude to ruin. This may be Machiavelli's most famous provocation. It is much safer to be feared than loved, if one must choose. Why? Because love is fickle. It evaporates under pressure. It depends on emotion, and emotion is unreliable. But fear is rooted in survival. It commands respect when love alone cannot. This is not a call to cruelty. It is a call to strength. To be feared is not to be hated. It is to be respected with caution. It is to be understood as a force, not a fool. People do not betray those they fear will retaliate, but they often exploit those they believe will forgive endlessly. So we must ask ourselves, do we seek to be loved because it is wise, or because we are weak? The man who chooses fear over love in the right proportion is not a tyrant. He is a realist. He understands that to survive among lions, one cannot remain a sheep. There is a tragic figure who walks through every era. The man who is too good for the world. He believes in honesty at every cost. He forgives endlessly. He sacrifices until there is nothing left. He believes that goodness is its own reward. And the world breaks him. Machiavelli sees this man not as noble, but as navi. His virtue is not strength, but surrender. He does not shape the world. He is shaped by it. He becomes resentful, bitter, confused why others rise while he suffers. This is the fatal flaw of the good man. He confuses moral idealism with wisdom. But the world does not reward innocence. It rewards clarity. To be truly good, one must first be smart. Otherwise, goodness becomes a burden others exploit. There is a strange beauty in Machiavelli's world, one that is cold yet sublime. It is the beauty of the chessboard, of a mind that sees the entire field, that makes each move with precision, that sacrifices one piece to save the whole. It is not sentimental, but it is intelligent. It does not hope, it acts. In this beauty, we find liberation. We are freed from the guilt of pleasing everyone, freed from the illusion that being nice will save us, freed from the chains of playing a role we never chose. Strategy, in this light, becomes art, a composition of will and timing, an orchestration of insight and restraint. And the conductor is not the kind-hearted dreamer. It is the lucid realist. Machiavelli does not tell us to abandon feeling, but he warns us never to abandon thinking. Look at the modern world. Is it not governed by Machiavellian rules, disguised in the language of virtue? Corporations speak of justice while exploiting the poor. Politicians smile while stabbing rivals. Even friendships are curated through masks and manipulation. We are living in a world Machiavelli predicted, but refused to admit. To study him today is not to return to a bygone age. It is to look into a mirror. And in that mirror, we must ask, have we been wise or merely willing? Machiavelli offers us not cynicism but vision, not cruelty but choice. The world has not grown kinder. It has grown more sophisticated in its deception. The man who pretends otherwise will always be prey. In The Prince, Machiavelli writes, "A man who wishes to act entirely up to his professions of virtue soon meets with what destroys him among so much that is evil." This is the heartbeat of his philosophy. Do not be good all the time. Learn when to be bad, if the moment demands it. There is no freedom without this knowledge. If you are bound by virtue in all situations, then you are not free. You are a slave to your ideals. But when you know how to bend, how to maneuver, how to step outside the bounds when the situation demands, it is then that you become sovereign over yourself. This is not a call to corruption. It is a call to mastery. Just as a surgeon must know where to cut, a man must know when to wield darkness with discipline. This is the essence of power, not to be consumed by evil, but to command it without being destroyed. So what now? Do we abandon all goodness? No, we redefine it. Goodness must no longer be a passive inheritance. It must become an active choice, shaped by reason, strengthened by discernment, protected by intelligence. Machiavelli's dark wisdom does not extinguish the light. It teaches us where and how to guard it. It says stop being good if good means weak. Start being smart so that your goodness survives. In the end, it is not the kindest who thrive, nor the cruelest, but the wisest. To walk through this world with both open eyes and a guarded heart is the highest form of wisdom. And so we must ask ourselves, what do we value more? The comfort of being good, or the freedom of being smart? If this reflection stirred something deep within you, a sense of clarity, of strength reawakened, then let this be the beginning of your transformation. Subscribe to this channel for more philosophical insights that challenge, empower, and awaken the mind. And share your thoughts in the comments. What does being smart mean to you now? Have you mistaken virtue for vulnerability? The ancient minds left us maps, not to follow blindly, but to read with courage. Be strong, and never again trade truth for comfort. Let the world play its game. You play to win.